Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Coachman. For today's story, we're gonna basically be staying in the similar era, but going 20 years earlier than the last story, back to 1884, and we're gonna be jumping ship over to Paris. Now, I don't know if you remember. If you don't remember the last story, it was about it was the gift of the Maggie, and a lot of it was just about I guess you could say prestige of the late 1800s, early 1900s, and kind of like but about true love. Imagine that on steroids, and this is what this story is basically about. Because in the 1800s, late 1800s of France, status was everything. It meant everything to you. There was nothing else. It was just who are you in this country? Yeah. So this story is called The Necklace, and it's by Guy de Maupassant. And it's a story that, like, basically, it like I said, it was a time when social class was everything, and pretending to be something that you're not, basically faking it till you made it, was like that was what you did. Like that's what people did. If they didn't have cash, they faked it. And but this story is more about the cost of faking it till you make it. And I bet you everybody, who's listening, each one of you out there that's listening will definitely know somebody who I think ended up in this. You'll find somebody that relates close to this story. So, with that being said, let's get into it. And here we go. The girl was one of those pretty and charming young creatures who sometimes are born, as if by a slip of fate, into a family of clerks. She had no dowry, no expectations, no way of being known, loved, married by any rich and distinguished man. So she let herself be married to a little clerk of the Ministry of Public Instruction. She dressed plainly because she could not she could yeah. She dressed plainly because she could not dress well. But she was unhappy as if she had really fallen from a higher station. Since with women there is neither caste nor rank, for beauty, grace, and charm take the place of family and birth. Natural ingenuity, instinct for what is elegant, a supple mind are their sole hierarchy, and often make of women of the people the equals of the very greatest ladies. So basically, if you didn't have the looks, the elegance, the grace, the charm, the looks, the money, you were basically nothing. You know what I mean? Like, and that goes for men too. Like, it was just the same. Like, but that's what I'm saying. Like in France, it was kind of like what was going on in the United States, but like like just literally hulked up on steroids and like just juiced up with like I don't know ADHD naturally. So it was crazy. Matilda suffered ceaselessly, feeling herself born to enjoy all delicacies and all luxuries. She was distressed at the poverty of her dwelling, at the bareness of the walls, at the shabby chairs, the ugliness of the curtains. All those things of which another woman of her rank would never even have been conscious, tortured her and made her angry. Dang, that sounds like those sound like some deep demons right there, boy. But in the time, I can totally understand it. The sight of the little Breton peasant who did her humble housework aroused in her despairing regrets and bewildering dreams. She thought of silent antechambers hung with oriental tapestries, illuminated by tall bronze candelabra, and of two great footmen in knee breeches who sleep in the big armchairs, made drowsy by the oppressive heat of the stove. She thought of long reception halls hung with ancient silk, of the dainty cabinets containing priceless curiosities, and of the coquettish perfumed reception rooms made for chatting at 5 o'clock with intimate friends, with men famous and sought after, whom all women envy, and whose attentions they all desired, aka the knitting circle. When she sat down to dinner, before the round table covered with the tablecloth in use 3 days, opposite her husband, who uncovered the soup tureen and declared with a delightful air, "The good soup. I don't know anything better than that." She thought of dainty dinners, of shining silverware, of tapestry that peopled the walls with ancient personages, and with strange birds flying in the midst of a fairy forest. And she thought of delicious dishes served on marvelous plates, and of the whispered gallantries to which you listen with a sphinx-like smile while you are eating the pink meat of a trout or the wings of a quail. So in other words, I ain't gonna lie. Yo, you know what that is? That'd be like some girl, yeah. That would be almost like like my missus, yeah, sitting and watching me eat like Popeyes while she's thinking of like going to like a Michelin star. Like that'd be that seriously. And then literally you see like maybe like I don't know, maybe you see like a car drive by of like two people in like an R8 all decked out and you're just like, why am I here? Why am I here with this fool? Like that would be torture. She had no gowns, no jewels, nothing. And she loved nothing but that. She felt made for that. She would have liked so much to please, to be envied, to be charming, to be sought after. She had a friend, a former schoolmate at the convent, who was rich and whom she did not like to go see any more because she felt so sad when she came home. But one evening, her husband reached home with a triumphant air and holding a large envelope in his hand. "There," he said, "there is something for you." She tore the paper quickly and drew out a printed card which bore these words: "The Minister of Public Instruction and Madame Georges Ramponneau request the honor of Monsieur and Madame Loisel's company at the Palace of the Ministry on Monday evening, January 18th. Sounds like, yo, cool. We get to go, rub elbows with with the big dogs. Instead of being delighted, as her husband had hoped, she threw the invitation on the table crossly, muttering, "What do you wish me to do with that?" "Why, my dear, I thought you would be glad. You never go out, and this is such a fine opportunity. I had great trouble to get it. Everyone wants to go. It is very select, and they are not giving many invitations to clerks. The whole official world will be there." She looked at him with an irritated glance and said impatiently, "And who do you wish me to put on my back?" I'm not gonna lie. That's see, the first couple times I read that, I was like, this woman seems like kind of like a bitch. But then I also had to think, so this fool knows, okay, that she likes all this extravagant stuff, gets this invitation, and doesn't even think about like, well, wait, if we just went like we are now, what's gonna happen? So it's like, homie, you could have planned for this shit and kept all this and kept these headaches away from you, but you didn't. So you just basically you fumbled. He had not thought of that, of course, he stammered. "Why, the gown you go to the theater in. It looks very well to me. Honestly, it's like my man just..." Yeah, he fucked up. Yeah, he fucked up. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, to me, answering that, it's almost like his wife just said, "Yo, does my butt look big in this?" And he said, "Hell yeah. Like, let's go." Like, he was just like, "Yeah, where are we good?" Like, brother, you need to learn to read the room. For real. I will say this. He's lucky he didn't catch four knuckles and a thumb laughing in his face. But we'll see. Maybe he will. Too slow now. Oh, okay. He stopped, distracted, seeing that his wife was weeping. Two great tears ran slowly from the corners of her eyes towards the corners of her mouth. "What's the matter? What's the matter?" he answered. See, again, you gotta love simple motherfuckers, but that's what we are, though. Simple, and yeah. By a violent effort, she conquered her grief and replied in a calm voice, while she wiped her wet cheeks, "Nothing. Only I have no gown, and therefore I can't go to this ball. Give your card to some colleagues whose wife is better equipped than I am." He was in despair, and he resumed, "Come, let us see, Matilda. How much would it cost? A suitable gown, which you could use on other occasions. Something very simple." She reflected several seconds, making her calculations and wondering also what sum she could ask for without drawing on herself an immediate refusal and a frightened exclamation from the economical clerk. Finally, she replied, hesitating, "I don't know exactly, but I think I could manage with 400 francs. Just to let you know, 400 francs back then was probably like a couple grand. So, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much like a couple grand. He grew a little pale because he was laying aside just that amount to buy a gun and treat himself to a little shooting next summer on the plain of Nanterre with several friends who went to shoot larks there of a Sunday. Nope. But he said, "Very well, I will give you 400 francs and try to have a pretty gown. Simple." The day of the ball drew near, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, uneasy, anxious. Her frock was ready, however. Her husband said to her one evening, "What is the matter? Come, you have seemed very queer these last 3 days." And she answered, "It annoys me not to have a single piece of jewelry, not a single ornament, nothing to put on. I shall look poverty-stricken. I would almost rather not go at all." That was a right move. That one line, "I would almost rather not go at all." Yo, I'm telling you, that would get like 95% of dudes in that situation. 100%. "You might wear natural flowers," said her husband. "They're very stylish at this time of year. For 10 francs, you can go get 2 or 3 magnificent roses. See, he keeps dipping into that well. Brother, you need this, like, this guy does not look at like, yo, does my butt look big? Brother, you need to learn. Like, that's twice he's been asked a similar question. Twice. And look, she was not convinced. No, there's nothing more humiliating than to look poor among other women who are rich. See what I'm saying? Like I say, he saved himself. "How stupid are you?" her husband cried. "Go look up your friend, Madame Forestier, and ask her to lend you some jewels. You're intimate enough with her to do that." She uttered a cry of joy. "True, I never thought of that." The next day she went to her friend and told her of her distress. Madame Forestier went to her wardrobe with a mirror, took out a large jewel box, brought it back, and opened it and said to Madame Loisel, "Choose, my dear." She saw first some bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a Venetian gold cross set with precious stones of admirable workmanship. She tried on the ornaments before the mirror, hesitated, and could not make up her mind to part with them, to give them back. She kept asking, "Haven't you any more?" I ain't gonna lie, yo, this lady, this woman was thorough. She was like Duke. She kept saying, "I don't know, I don't know." Yo, show me the good shit. That's what she wanted. She was like, "Yo, just show me the good shit." And yeah, she just wanted that good stuff. "Haven't you any more?" "Why, yes. Look no further." "Look further. I don't know what you like." See, that's almost like she opened up the vault and said, "Yo, have at it. Just go buck wild. Choose what you like." Suddenly she discovered in a black satin box a superb diamond necklace, and her heart throbbed with an immoderate desire. Her hands trembled as she took it. She fastened it round her throat, outside her high-necked waist, and was lost in ecstasy at her reflection in the mirror. Then she asked, hesitating, filled with anxious doubt, "Will you lend me this? Only this?" "Why, yes, certainly." She threw her arms round her friend's neck, kissed her passionately, then fled with her treasure. The night of the ball arrived. Madame Loisel was a great success. She was prettier than any other woman present, elegant, graceful, smiling and wild with joy. All the men looked at her, asked her name, sought to be introduced. All the attachés of the cabinet wished to waltz with her. She was remarked by the minister himself. So if you don't know what an attaché is, it's kind of like in okay, it's not exact, but if I had to draw a similarity, it's like a secretary, but like a high end, like it's kind of like what people when they say executive assistant, but it's like you are like kind of like up there with the executive as well. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm, discrediting anybody who's an administrative assistant or a secretary. I'm just saying an attaché, it kind of holds a little bit of a different weight. At least back then it did. She danced with rapture, with passion, intoxicated by pleasure, forgetting all in the triumph of her beauty and the glory of her success, and a sort of cloud of happiness comprised of all its homage, admirations, these awakened desires, and of that sense of triumph which is so sweet to a woman's heart. She left the ball about 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband had been sleeping since midnight in a little deserted anteroom with 3 other gentlemen whose wives were enjoying the ball. Yo, I'm not gonna lie to you. So I don't know about many dudes, but I'm not gonna lie though. This tells me something about this ball. Yeah. If all the wives were running around, yeah, and 4 dudes are all passed out in one room, either A, they got, I'm talking smashed proper like, or to me, I think they got smashed proper like because they were bored as hell at this ball. Because it's just standing around, like posturing, blah, 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 blah. Like, guys really don't give a damn about that. So I'm just thinking these guys are like, yo, you know what? I'm going to get hemmed up and then I'll just go pass out because nobody's really going to say anything anyway. So, he threw over her shoulders the wraps he had brought, the modest wraps of common life, the poverty of which contrasted with the elegance of the ball dress. She felt this and wished to escape so as not to be remarked by the other women, who were enveloping themselves in costly furs. Lascelles held her back, saying, "Wait a bit. You will catch cold outside. I will grab a cab." But she did not listen to him and rapidly descended the stairs. When they reached the street, they could not find a carriage and began to look for one, shouting after the cabman passing at a distance. They went toward the Seine, in despair, shrieking with cold. At last, they found on the quay of those ancient nightcabs which, as though they were ashamed to show their shabbiness during the day, are never seen round Paris until after dark. It took them to their dwelling in the Rue de Mars, and sadly they mounted to the stairs to their flat. All was ended for her. As to him, he reflected that he must be at the ministry at 10 o'clock that morning. She removed her wraps before the glass so as to see herself once more in all her glory. But suddenly she uttered a cry. She no longer had the necklace around her neck. Whoop. Looks like that went from sugar to shit. "What is the matter with you?" demanded her husband, already half undressed. She turned distractedly toward him. I've lost the forester's necklace," she cried. He stood up bewildered. "You damn right he did, 'cause he just saw his life flash before his eyes. And he also saw what I would say he gonna be Bubba's bitch." "What? How? Impossible." They looked among the folds of her skirt, of her cloak, in her pockets, everywhere, but did not find it. "You're sure you had it on when you left the ball?" he asked. "Yes, I felt it in the vestibule of the minister's house. But if you had lost it in the street, we should have heard it fall. It must be in the cab." "Yes, probably. Did you take his number?" "No." "And you? Didn't you notice it?" "No." They looked thunderstruck at each other. At last, Loisel put on his clothes. "I shall go back on foot," said he, "over the whole route to see whether I can find it." He went out, and she sat waiting on a chair in her ball dress, without strength to go to bed, overwhelmed, without any fire, without a thought. Damn. Yo, I ain't gonna lie. That sounds like she was just straight traumatized. Oh, you know what? Like, she was just straight in shock. Like, I mean, real shock. Like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. Her husband returned about 7 o'clock. He had nothing. He went to police headquarters, to the newspaper offices to offer a reward. He went to the cab companies, everywhere. In fact, whither he was urged by the last spark of hope. She waited all day in the same condition of mad fear before this terrible calamity. Loisel returned at night with a hollow, pale face. He had discovered nothing. You must write to your friend, he said, that you have broken the clasp of her necklace and that you are having it mended. That will give us time to turn around. So this is where I would say you can only dig a hole. You can only dig a grave so far before you can't get the fuck out. And honestly, this is these two starting to dig their grave. She wrote it as diction. At the end of a week, they had lost all hope. Loisel, who had aged 5 years, declared, "We must consider how to replace that ornament." The next day, they took the box that had contained it and went to the jeweler whose name was found within. He consulted his books. "It was not I, madam, who sold the necklace. I must simply have furnished the case." I ain't gonna lie, I bet you that hurts. Because you think, oh, I can just walk over here and let's just see how much it is. And all of a sudden, you're walking out there like literally, not even empty handed, just with an empty box. Like, shit, I got what? I can give it back to her, but there's not. Yeah, that would suck. Then, they went from jeweler to jeweler, searching for a necklace like the other, trying to recall it, both sick with the chagrin and grief. They found in a shop at the Palais Royal a string of diamonds that seemed to them exactly like the one they had lost. It was worth 40,000 francs. They could have it for 36. So in other words, like, yo, this is like, add another zero, and that's how much they're paying, probably equivalent to today. So, not good. Not good at all. Because honestly, like, if it costs that much money and they have like little cheese, I mean, yeah, it's almost, damn. This is like, trying to like boat up a river without a paddle. But gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. So they begged the jeweler so they begged the jeweler not to sell it for 3 days yet. And they made a bargain that he should buy it back for 34,000 francs in case they should find the lost necklace before the end of February. Loisel possessed 18,000 francs, which his father had left him. He would borrow the rest. He did borrow, asking 1,000 francs of one, 500 of another, 5 louis here, 3 louis there. He gave notes, took up ruinous obligations, dealt with usurers, and all the races of lenders. He compromised all the rest of his life, risked signing a note without even knowing whether he could meet it. Dude, honestly, to me, that's right there, that's wild as hell. Like, you literally are signing a contract, and it's like, dang, with kind of like the hint in the back of your head, like, yo, I can't do this. But you're just like, I don't care. I just need to do something for time right now. That's absolutely crazy. And, frightened by the trouble yet to come, by the black misery that was about to fall upon him, by the prospect of all the physical privations and moral tortures that he was to suffer, he went to get the new necklace, laying upon the jeweler's counter 36,000 francs. Yo, this dude, he loves his wife. I mean, I'm sorry, there are mad dudes I know. Soon as that woman would have lost that, he'd have been like, "What?" He's like, you're on your own. Go find that. When Madame Loisel took back the necklace, Madame Forrester said to her with a chilly manner, "You should have returned it sooner. I might have needed it." She did not open the case as her friend had so much feared. If she had detected a substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she not have taken Madame Loisel for a thief? Thereafter, Madame Loisel knew the horrible existence of the needy. She bore her part, however, with sudden heroism. "I bet she did. Shit, there ain't nothing you can do. You gotta pay back. Her and the hubby gotta pay that back, or it's game. Shit. Good night, Irene." So we'll see. That dreadful debt must be paid. She would pay it. They dismissed their servant. They changed their lodging. They rented a garret under the roof. She came to know what heavy housework meant, and the odious cares of the kitchen. She washed the dishes, using her dainty fingers and rosy nails on greasy pots and pans. She washed the soiled linens, the shirts, and the dishcloths, which she dried upon a line. She carried the slops down to the street every morning and carried up the water, stopping for breath at every landing, and dressed like a woman of the people. She went to the fruitier, the grocer, the butcher, a basket on her arm, bargaining, meeting with impertinence, defending her miserable money, so by so. In other words, she was going through it. And I'm not going to lie to you. For anybody who has never been to Paris, when they say that, she had to stop for breath at every landing, I'm telling you, people think that, I think a lot of people get things somewhat twisted. Yes, it is somewhat flat, like around the Champs-Elysees, the Louvre, all that. It is. But here's the thing, yeah. Once you leave that area, like for example, to get to the Charles de Gaulle, like the train station, it is uphill, and it is up a nasty. And I'm talking, and it's not just one hill. No. Like it's like half the city's on a hill, and like when you got to walk up some of these steps, you're not walking up like a flight like 12. No. You're walking up like 4, 5, 6 flights of steps. It is nasty. So I couldn't imagine carrying like buckets and buckets of shit down, only to carry buckets and buckets of water back up. No. I ain't gonna lie though, I bet you she was hench. And when I mean hench, I mean she was hench after that. So every month they had to meet some notes, renew others, obtain more time. Her husband worked evenings, making up a tradesman's account. And late at night, he often copied manuscripts for 5 sous a page. This lasted 10 years. I'm not going to lie. I bet you this woman had guns galore, bro. I'm talking about, I bet you she could punch a hole in, like, I'm talking a deep mud hole in your chest. You know what I'm saying? She had that, like, country strength and shit. I bet you it was unreal. She ain't look like no woman no more. At the end of 10 years, they had paid everything, with the rates of usury and the accumulations of the compound interest. Madame Loisel looked old now. She had become the woman of impoverished households, strong and hard and rough. See what I'm saying? She got man hands now. That's what she got. With frowsy hair, skirts askew, and red hands. She talked loud while washing the floor with great swishes of water. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she sat down near the window and she thought of that gay evening of long ago, of that ball where she had been so beautiful and so admired. So that was 10 years ago. And your butt, your gut, and your boobs are 10 years closer to the floor. What would have happened if she had not lost that necklace? Who knows? How strange and changeful is life. How small a thing is needed to make or ruin us. But one Sunday, having gone to take a walk in the Champs-Elysees, see what I'm saying? You take a walk on the Champs-Elysees because of how fucking flat it is. You don't do it near her crib. That's why she took a walk over there. To refresh herself after the labors of the week, she suddenly perceived a woman who was leading a child. It was Madame Forestier, still young, still beautiful, still charming. Madame Loisel felt moved. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all about it. Why not? She went up. Good day, Jean. The other, astonished to be familiarly addressed by this plain, good wife, did not recognize her at all, and stammered. But, Madame, I do not know. You must have mistaken. No, 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 no. I am Matilda de Lussois. Her friend uttered a cry. Oh, poor Matilda, how you were changed. Yo, honestly, I take how are you changed in the same vein as, oh my god, you look so cute. It says something, but it doesn't say exactly what it's saying. But we'll leave it alone. Yes, I have had a pretty hard life since I last saw you, and great poverty, and that because of you. That's cold blooded. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, that's really cold blooded. You see this lady, and then you're gonna blame her because you lost something? Yo, I ain't gonna lie. Well, no, I was gonna say I'd pimp slap her, but this dainty little woman ain't gonna. Nah, you ain't gonna. Don't be fucking around with Country Strong. She'll end up getting choked out, no doubt. Of me? How so? Do you remember that diamond necklace you lent me to wear in the ministerial ball? Yes, well, I lost it. What do you mean? You brought it back. I brought you back another exactly like it, and it has taken us 10 years to pay for it. You can understand that it was not easy for us who had nothing. At last, it is ended, and I am very glad. Madame Forestier had stopped. You say that you bought a necklace of diamonds to replace mine? Yes, you never noticed it then? They were very similar. And she smiled with a joy that was at once proud and ingenious. Madame Forestier, deeply moved, took her hands. Oh, my poor Matilda. Why, my necklace was paste. It was worth, at most, only 500 francs. All I gotta say is this couple straight played themselves. See what I mean? And I guarantee you, anybody who's listening to this, we all have had a friend who's pulled this shit and had the same result. So when I always hear, you know what I mean, fake it till you make it, I never understand it. Look, it is okay to just be yourself. It is okay to be who you are, to be where you're at. I mean, you can do it if you want, but I mean, all you're doing is just, I don't know. Think about it. She put herself through all that agony before the ball, right? And then after it, for what? For that one night. Like what? Like 5 hours? Maybe 6, 7 hours, and that's it? Yo, it's crazy. I'm telling you. It's totally nuts. But as you can see, this story, honestly, I think it just should remind us of how fast that pride can turn into pain, and how living for other people's approval will leave you broke, tired, stressed out, and honestly, it will fuck you up. Like there's no point. And that's what I'm saying. Like even when I was just thinking about like when I was on my way home about like being around wealthy people, I wouldn't give a shit if I was in my blue jeans and boots. I wouldn't care because these people are going to remember me more than I remember them. Why? Because I can stand among them and I don't give a damn. But let me say something about them and it's like, oh my God, they get all up in a tizzy. So yeah, so I would just say, I don't know. I just think that like it's sad that like this lady had to go through all this. But with that being said, why don't you let me know? You can send me a message, you know what I mean, on Instagram. You can send me one on Facebook. You can even email me. You can go check out the website and whatnot, send something there. But I'd really like to know, like, what people think about this story. I thought it was, honestly, it was really interesting just because this is over 220 years old, or actually like 240 years old or something like that. And you're looking at this, and honestly, it's still relevant today. Like everything about this is still relevant. So I would just say, you know what? Just be who you are. And you know what I mean? let is what it be. It's all gravy. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you for joining. And until next time, take care.